Well, hello lovely planners, and I hope you're doing well. Today I'm so excited. This is my first whole long video where I'm going to design an entire dress with you guys. This is a long process. It took me a long time to film this video. There's a lot of cutting. You'll see the children in it. You'll see my husband's walking around. I just compiled all of these many videos that I took of me designing a dress while everybody else around my family is doing something else. I hope you enjoy this, and if you do like this kind of video, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to share it. If you need a dress and you're in the region of Montreal area, even Sherbrooke or Ottawa, feel free to communicate with me and I will do as best as I can to create your perfect dress. So let's start this. As you could see, as I was talking, I was making the drawing of the dress. I usually start all of my dresses by drawing the dress on paper. I add the details I may want to add on it. I think also about the fabric, how it's going to lay on the body once the dress is done, to make sure that I maximize the fabric quality and the style. I usually try to buy the fabric before I start designing so I have a clear idea of how it should fall. So I do a small drawing. I mean, this is a beginning drawing. It's not something that is set in stone. We always adjust. As you could tell in this drawing, I had like a front opening, and in the final dress I will not have this front opening. Okay, so I'm just starting designing the bodice. So what usually I do is I use this form that I already made like a long time ago. I always use my form. These are things that I designed myself when I was in college, and they are basic bodice, and I always start my dresses with these basic bodice, and from that I create a new dress. I adjust to the client size, adjust the details that needs to be added to it to create the final dress as it look on the drawing. So right now I'm just drawing the details, the neckline, I'm fixing up the shoulder, I'm fixing up the openings, I alter a little bit the size, I open the backdrop of the opening because this has a really low V drop in the back, which is going to be absolutely gorgeous on this lady. You will see at the end how gorgeous she is. I also tend to calculate everything, so you do need to have like basic math abilities to be making pattern. As funny as it sounds, you know, dressmakings, you are required to have a little bit of whiz in math because there's a lot of equations that you need to know in order to do a perfect fit of a dress. So now I'm just drawing the sleeve. This dress is going to be a back sleeve. So the sleeve is completely attached to the bodice, so it's not separated by a seam, and it's a little bit loose. So I'm just drawing that sleeve as best as I could. Obviously, there's always adjustments that needs to be done to these patterns. This is just really a first draft because it's never perfect. You always have to have fits and return to the pattern afterwards. I just added this little curve on the shoulder because, you know, your arms and your shoulders, it forms a small curve, and a little curve also under the armpit to smooth that out because you don't want any rough angle in a bat sleeve dress. You want it to flow with the body. Now, as you can see, I'm adding my seam allowance, my cuff for the sleeve, and I'm just doing this all around it. At the bottom it's going to be gathering, so I do not need a dart there. I'm not form fitting this pattern, and I'm just cutting this out and a front piece will be done finally. Just so you know, this video is speed up 500 times faster, and as you can tell on the bar, it's almost like 45 minutes video long. So this is many days over of work. I did not do this in one day, especially with Silas. He was very young at the time, so I had to take a lot of breaks to be able to achieve that dress. He was very young when I started this. We're talking about 4 months old, so babies, they need a lot of attention, so it's really hard to get it done in one day. However, if this is the only thing I would do, I would probably get all of the pattern done in that one sitting, probably over like 4-hour, 5-hour time, depending on how complicated the dress is. This dress is very simple. I mean, it's not one of the most complicated dresses that I've made. I just wanted to keep it very nice, very minimalist, very soft. We have all of this like new wave of like very minimal dresses right now going on. Clients, they like something more simple, something less form-fitting, a little bit romantic also, and I think this dress is just exactly what that trend is. I honestly had a lot of positive comment when I posted this dress. The bride just looks absolutely gorgeous in it, and she is like so pretty. I can't wait for you to see it at the end. So as you can see, both of the front pieces are done right now. So we're gonna start with the skirt part of our dress right now. Sorry for the hair. I usually don't dress up to do patterns. I want to be as comfortable as possible so that my movements are not blocked. I usually wear gym clothes or sweats and sweaters. Again, I'm starting with the front and the back block basic skirts that I've done many years over. If you guys are interested in knowing how I create these blocks, do give me a comments in the bottom and ask me to make a video on this. I will be delighted to show you how I did this. And as well as if you do want to have a nice book, I will link the book that I used all my life while designing dresses and making patterns. This book is just the best book ever. I love it. I mean, I'm not sponsored by this book. I just love it. It's a little bit pricey, but I mean, it's really worth it. I don't know if you saw, but I was like showing you that the bodice at the top has to be gathered to the skirt. Now I'm adjusting the waistband of that skirt to make sure that the client fits in it. Again, you need your mat. You need to calculate the circumference of the body. You need to know your basic mat. It's so important. So I'm drawing the dart because this skirt is more of a form-fitted, loose sheet skirt. What this means is that the dress is fitted around the waist, around the hips, and then from the hips down, it just goes straight. So I'm adjusting the waist, and then I'm gonna go around the hips, adjusting it, and go all the way to the floor with it. This dress is just really simple, as I said. At the back, I'm gonna add a small train also, but I don't think I'm doing this in the beginning. I usually add them at the end so that I don't waste too much paper or fabric as I do my fitting, because a train doesn't really need to be fitted. It just like drapes however you want it to drape. So now I'm just doing my dart, making sure that my patterns are well identified so I don't lose the pieces. It's quite tedious. You don't want to forget the details, because if you don't do it, you may just look at it and be, oh no, that's another dress. But when you have a lot of clients like I do, and you end up having like maybe like 50 patterns lying around your office, you really need to learn how to identify your patterns properly. Even if you don't, because even if you don't have that many clients, over the years you end up having so many of them and you're just lost. You just need to make sure that all of your pieces are identified and gathered together, so that if you ever want to do this dress again, at least you know it's there. I don't know if you saw, but in the back I cutted my my back skirt in a little triangle slanted, and I left that little like 45 degrees little like edge in the back seam where I'm going to put the zipper. I usually do this because when you sew, it's so much easier to get it done. You sew from that little corner up to the zipper and then you're set. If you don't add it, sometimes it's hard to know where the seam is supposed to be finished. Just a little trick that I've learned over the years. So now we're just cutting a little bit of the fabric. I just used some scrap fabric that I have lying around the house. I happen to have some white fabric right now. I never use expensive fabric for this because this usually ends up in the garbage or either recycling fabric center here in Montreal. Sometimes like when the pieces are too small or like really disgusting, I have no choice to throw them in the garbage. However, I try to always send them to the recycling facility where they shred the fabric and remake new fabric with old fabric. I always try to save the planet as I do my dresses. I never buy anything in advance. I always only buy what I need. I don't like to waste fabric. So now I'm done cutting my front and my back. I'm gonna cut the skirt right now. I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna cut the whole thing because this is a straight skirt. I don't need to see the actual like volume of it. So I just really need to fit the waist and make sure the hips are well fitted and it's nice and smooth all around. So I'm just cutting the skirt like a little bit above the knee. Again, not to waste fabric, not to like pollute more than I need to. I try to make a very big effort to save on garbages that comes out of my office, which I think a lot of people don't do. They just cut the whole thing and then they end up wasting fabric for no reason. So I'm cutting it in the navy, so because I ran out of the white. My piece that was left over of the white was a little too small to cut both of the skirt in it. So you see I have a huge piece here, so I'll probably use it again to cut a bustier, a piece of like a smaller piece of pattern. And I always try to maximize what I use and without wasting. Now I'm just cutting my notch to make sure when I sew that I have my notch well identified. And yeah, this is it. We're done cutting. We're good. We have all of our pieces and we're ready to sew. A lot of people use industrial machine to sew their dresses, and a lot of professionals, they just prefer this. However, I love my machine. It's a domestic machine that I bought years ago. It is a good quality. I bought it when I was a teenager. I did have an industrial machine, but it's so big and it takes so much space in my office that I decided to sell it. And I just felt like my domestic machine was doing as good as a job as what my initial machine was doing. And it's so, I can just put it inside the closet and it's like tucked away, nobody sees it. So now I'm just sewing the whole entire dress. We're just gathering all of the pieces together, sewing the armhole. As you can see, there's like people going around the house. My office is in my house. I have a loft-like house where my living area is all open, and to be sure that I have an eye on the children at all times, my office is also in this open area. It allows me to work as the children plays around, and I much prefer this than being secluded in a separate room and I don't really see what they're doing. It is my preferences. It's a little bit awkward when I have clients coming in, but you know, most of the clients that work with me, they understand that my priorities in life is my children. So I used to have also an office downtown in Montreal and got rid of it because I felt like I didn't really need it. And maybe in the future, when my kids are a little bit bigger, like I will probably have an office again. But at this moment, I much prefer being at home and then waking up and working whenever I can and be present for my kids. So now I'm just sewing the dart. Simple. As you can see, I'm using like a white thread on navy blue. I mean, this is just for fitting. I would never do this on a real garment. Otherwise, you can see the stitches through, you know. This is just for making sure that the dress fits the client well. So I'm just about done to be sewing the skirt together. I'm sewing the side seam. It's moving a lot because this machine is very powerful and it creates vibration on the table, and I had no other space to put my camera to film, so I hope you don't mind the shaking around. I just really wanted you to be sure that you see everything close up, and I didn't want to put it on a chair or on the floor next to me, just in case I knocked it off. I want to make sure that the camera is also secure. Okay, so now I just loose stitch with a wide stitch all around the waist of the bodice, and now I'm just gathering it along the skirt and I'm attaching it to the skirt, of distributing all of that gathering around to the skirt waist, because it's got a little gathers on the top of the bodice. You'll see, you will love it. Now I'm just doing the other side. I usually do one side at a time to make sure that my gathering is well dispersed throughout the waistband. A lot of people gather with their machine directly. I prefer doing it by hand. It looks better, and the gathers are exactly where I want them to be. So there we go. Let's sew this up. This looks great. In this video, I did not include the fitting because the client didn't feel comfortable getting fitted on camera. I promise soon I will have one with the entire fitting going on. I am actually working on one right now to show you how I proceed with my fitting. So right now I just did all of the correction on the pattern, and now I'm sewing the dress, the actual dress with the proper fabric. This dress is made of chiffon, and it's a very lightweight chiffon. So what I like to do when I have light dresses like this, I like to kind of like double line it. So I have a top fabric, which is the chiffon, and I have a metal fabric, which is under the chiffon, and I do attach all of my pieces together before I sew them, before I sew the side seam and the dart and everything. And I do have a lining as well for this dress. I created inside of this dress as well a knit breast support. My client has a very small breast, so I just did an elastic kind of like support tank top on one half of the dress going all the way around the waist. So it kind of looks like she's wearing an halter top inside, but on the outside you see the back sleeve with the uncovered back, which will be very nice. So now I'm just sewing the 2 layers from the front, the 2 layers from the back, as well as that little like knit halter top I created for her. And I'm making a really clean seam with the lining. Now I'm just cutting the underarm to make sure that the curve falls well. So I'm just cutting the side seam and, you know, loosening it up around so that the movement is easier. What I'm doing right now is I'm adding a bias to my seam to clean finish this properly. I'm going to do this on both sides, clip, clip, clip the underarm and add the bias on top of it. Even though you clip it, don't worry about it, it's not going to fray. Your bias is covering all of these clips. The little clips that you do really is necessary when you have a sharp curve like this with fabrics that are not knit. You need to do this so that the arm can move properly and it's just not all bunched up under your armpit. So now I'm just showing you how I'm installing this bias on the finished hem. So I did a bias there as well, which I'm going to be hand stitching to finish it. I don't always finish my dresses like this. I often do like a full body lining, but for this situation I decided to do a bias to avoid having like too many layers of this. But it's still, you'll see it's still very clean finishing from the exterior, and in interior you just have this slightly striped bias which is dyed to the color of my main fabric. It looks really good and it's easy to do this. Now I just ironed the whole thing. I'm gonna double fold it, iron it, and pin it. There you go, all pinned. It's all iron. I decided to end stitch that bias inside of the sleeve to make sure that you don't see the stitches from the outside. It looks good. So now I'm going to sew the waist together with a long stitch to be able to gather it around the waistband of the skirt. There we go. The bodice part is completed. Now I'm going to do the skirt. I've previously stitched all of my dart. Everything is done. Now I'm just attaching my chiffon layer to my lining layer so that I can stitch it, and I will also finish it with the bias all around to make it clean and keep it nice and neat. together, all of the 4 layers. I'm holding it really nice, make sure it's all aligned so that I don't have any bunches or mini gathers throughout the whole thing. So there you go, now I'm done. I just went to iron. I just went to the ironing table. I laid down my skirt and gathered all of my bodice around and preset my gathers with pins. I really don't want it to move. I just placed the whole thing to make sure it's not crooked and I have like unwanted like fabric stuck somewhere, just to make sure it's all lay flat. I just want to make sure that my skirt is all flat and that only my bodice is gathered. Now I'm going to sew it all the way through and attach to the zipper. Now I'm just doing the hand of my skirt, the chiffon part. You can see how transparent that chiffon is. So I'm doing it little bit by little bit, twisting it in, doing a double turn, and placing it with my seam ripper, making sure that the hem is always the same width. I use a smaller needle and a smaller thread to do this, to make sure it looks all nice and neat. So there you go, we're just sewing this thing. You need to take your time to do this. It needs to be perfect. Sewing the hem on the chiffon skirt is probably the longest thing you've ever had done. Especially when you have a train, it just takes forever. It's long, it's tedious. You need to be very careful so that you don't make any mistakes. Otherwise, your dress is just gonna look ridiculous. You need to make sure you don't have any curves that's going like wrongly. You just need to take your time. We're almost there. I think we're about halfway through the hem. Maybe a little less. And here I'm just gonna speed up just a little bit more because it's so long. So I speed it up to like 700% so that you see everything. Now my husband just dropped the baby on my sewing table. He was probably going to the gym. So I ended up having stylists for the rest of sewing the hem, so which is very distracted. I'm almost done. I'm so lucky that my son is quiet. He usually plays with his toys. If he's not hungry or he doesn't need to drink, he just plays, and then I'm able to do what I want to do, like throughout my day. So there you go. This is the hardest part of the hem. It's the train, because it's got this nice skirt inside and you want it to flow as good as possible. It's really hard to do the really small hem on this, and it looks really horrible at the beginning, but once it's ironed, you'll see how good it looks. You just have to, again, take your time and be patient, because trust me, you do not want to unstitch chiffon. It is the most horrible fabrics to unstitch. And I'm just on the train right now. I'm on this side thing, as you can see. I'm sewing it in. There you go, you have it. You can see my bias here. It's very nice and neat finishing. It looks amazing. Just be careful when you go into the layer, when you have 4 or 5 or 6 layers, you need to be careful so that you don't break your needle. I just had a little accident here and I broke my needle. Especially when you use a very small needle, they're super fragile. So here I'm unstitching it. I'm just fixing up my little mistake. I hate doing this. It's just horrible. And it's so hard to not damage the fabric. So again, you still need to take very much your time to do it, to make sure you don't pull any thread inside your fabric. As you can see, the hem before I iron it, it's a little bit wobbly, but once you iron it, it becomes really smooth. Put a lot of steam and then just go all around with your iron to make it look really nice. And this is the result at the end, what it looks like. Okay, now I'm going to attach the lining from the inside to the waistband. So you have to attach the lining on the side of the bodice so that when you turn it over, you have a very clean finish. And as you can see, I have the baby on me right now. That's the huge red looking tummy that you might see. I put him in his kangaroo, having sleep on me. It just allows me to work a little bit longer while he sleeps. He was very small and needy during that time, and most of his nap time I was requested to hold him. So the kangaroo became really handy as I needed to work at the same time. So you see, very clean finish. So this is the final result. She just looks really pretty. It's a little bit off shoulder, nice train, straight skirt, very deep V neck, a little bit off the shoulder. This is a footage from the photo shoot that they had.